Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq, with daily insight on the Nasdaq-100 index, or the NDX, which is made up of 100 of the largest domestic and international non-financial innovative companies listed on the Nasdaq stock market. The NDX has been the barometer for U.S. large cap growth and also one of the best performing indexes over the last decade and a half, not to mention one of the most liquid index ecosystems in the world. Joining me this afternoon, we have Shawn Cruz, Manager of Trader Services at TD Ameritrade. And Shawn, certainly a very different session than what we've seen over the past 5 to 6 trading sessions, with some choppier trade today.
It has been, and it really seems like the market is trying to weigh what they are seeing with the rising cases and sort of forecast if things are going to get worse, if things maybe are going to top out here, and maybe we hit that inflection point where we start to taper off. Trying to forecast that with any sort of potential response from officials has really been what's driving a lot of this volatility back and forth. But you notice that trades actually is what's going on in markets and what markets are focused on days like today, where you do see the outperformance start to show up from Nasdaq versus any of the really other major indices. It's what's really been driving that outperformance so far this year. And if you just look at the past couple of sessions, you actually see the Nasdaq continue to pull away from some of those other major indices. And that really is just the sign that they're sort of getting away from those sectors that are more reliant on the economy getting back to a more full reopening, where you see energies, financials, industrials leading us lower on days like today. And then on the safety side, or the sort of stay at home, not full lockdown, but still some elevated restrictions, that's when you start to see some of those tech names at least outperform a little bit. And that's what we're seeing on the screens today. And I think it's going to be something to look at for the coming weeks, as we start to see cases flare up in certain spots, and trying to gauge what that can mean for any sort of response from officials, because that's going to shape our outlook for the economy.
It certainly will. And one of the areas that we're seeing heightened interest in is certainly with biotech. And we can see that in our chart here with Regeneron.
It is. And so Regeneron came out and was able to announce that they had a pretty large order placed for their vaccination treatment that they think can help drive antibodies, which can push a little bit of that immune response to being able to fight off COVID. So right now, I think a lot of these drug companies that have been working on this for quite a while now, because of Operation Warp Speed, which is sort of trying to fast track some of these vaccinations through some of the trial periods and actually get them out in the market, you're starting to see some of these biotech companies really start to sort of separate themselves from the herd in terms of their treatments that are showing promise. So I actually think this can be another way that you see some pretty strong performance out of an index like the Nasdaq, because a lot of these biotech companies are actually Nasdaq listed companies as well. And in the coming weeks and months, I do think there's going to be a handful of these biotech companies that really deliver what are going to be sort of the pack leaders for treatments that could get widespread use.
All right. And finally, let's take a look at Inovio. That's another one, too, that's showing some promise.
That is an up 15% on the session today. It's been a little bit more volatile if you look at the chart than Regeneron, but certainly a lot of interest in this name, and their treatment also is one that's getting a lot of attention from quite a few regulators. There's another promising treatment out there. And if you really look at where this interest is coming in and we're seeing it show up, it's not just in the demand for the stock and the performance. But if you even look at the options have been very active. And even today, we've seen about 107,000 calls trade hands versus about 30,000 puts. So just a significant amount of interest in the calls on this as well. And I think it just shows that this is another stock that if they're able to get out there and emerge as another leading treatment, that could drive further significant upside for the stock. So two companies certainly want to keep your eye on here in the future moving forward.
All right, Shawn, thanks for joining as always.
All right, thank you.
All right, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.